The great crystal halls of the Zephyrian world glowed softly under their two blue suns. Ancient knowledge lived in these crystal walls, stored for thousands of years like memories frozen in time. Archivist Thalmenos moved slowly through the endless rows of glowing crystals, his own crystal body catching the light as he worked. For 50 years, Thalmenos had been reading the old stories, sorting truth from legend. Most tales were simple enough to understand: wars between star systems, the rise and fall of great empires, the discovery of new worlds. But today, something different caught his attention. Deep in the oldest section, where few visitors ever came, he found fragments that spoke of creatures called humans. These stories made no sense. The fragments described beings that seemed impossible. One moment, these humans would save their worst enemies from certain death, showing kindness that brought tears to hardened warriors. The next moment, they would fight with such terrible fury that entire armies would flee in terror. They created beautiful art that could move beings to weep with joy, yet they also built weapons so devastating that planets trembled at their mention. How could any species be so contradictory? Thalmenos had studied thousands of races across the galaxy. Each had their nature: the peaceful melody who never fought, the warrior Corvani who lived for battle, the logical hegemony who solved everything through reason. But humans? They seemed to be everything at once. Most scholars laughed at these stories. Children's tales, they would say. Made-up warnings about the dangers of having too many emotions. But Thalmenos felt something different when he read these fragments. They felt real in a way that pure fiction did not. Far away, near the edge of the galaxy where stars grew thin and space turned dark, Commander Kilo guided his patrol ship through the empty void. Kilo was a practical being who believed in what he could see and touch. His job was simple: keep peace between the many species of the galactic hegemony. Pirates, smugglers, the occasional border dispute, these were real problems with real solutions. Ancient myths and old stories? Kilo had no time for such things. The galaxy had real troubles that needed real answers. His ship's alarm chimed softly, breaking his thoughts. "Sir," called his scanner operator, "we have something strange out here. A ship, but not like anything in our records." Kilo moved to the main viewer and felt his breath catch. The vessel floating in the darkness was enormous, easily twice the size of his own ship. But it was the design that made his skin crawl. The hull seemed to flow like liquid metal, covered in markings that appeared to shift and change as he watched. No species he knew could build something like this. "Life signs?" he asked. "None, sir. The ship appears to have been dead for a very long time. Maybe thousands of years." Kilo made his decision quickly. "Prepare a boarding party. And contact the Zephyrian archives. Tell them we need their best expert on ancient civilizations." When Thalmenos arrived 3 days later, he brought several portable crystal readers filled with the oldest texts from his archives. The moment he saw the derelict ship, his crystal body began to dim, a sign of deep shock among his people. "Impossible," he whispered, his voice creating soft harmonic echoes in the ship's corridor. "What is it?" Kilo demanded. "Do you recognize this design?" Thalmenos moved closer to the hull markings, his crystal fingers tracing patterns in the air just above the metal. "These symbols? I have seen them before. In the fragments. The oldest fragments that speak of." He paused, his form flickering with uncertainty. "Commander, I believe we have found evidence of the humans." Kilo's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "Not you too. Those are stories, archivist. Children's tales to frighten young ones into behaving." But as they explored the ship's dark corridors, Kilo's certainty began to crack. The technology was far beyond anything the current galaxy could produce. Walls that could apparently reshape themselves, power systems that still hummed with energy after millennia, weapons that his engineers could not even begin to understand. In what appeared to be the ship's memory core, they found preserved images. The holograms flickered to life, showing beings that matched the ancient descriptions perfectly. Bipedal creatures with soft, pale skin and eyes that seemed to hold both great kindness and terrible determination. They moved with a fluid grace that suggested both dancer and warrior lived in the same body. "They are real," Kilo breathed, staring at the ghostly figures. "The humans are real." Most of the ship's data had been carefully erased, but deep in the core systems, they found one final piece of information: a star chart. The map showed pathways leading away from the galaxy's edge, out into the vast emptiness between galaxies where no known species had ever traveled. Thalmenos studied the chart with growing unease. "Commander, according to this, they left our galaxy entirely. But look at these trajectory calculations. If I am reading this correctly, these paths were not random. They were carefully planned, as if they intended to return someday. Kilo felt a chill run through his body. How long ago? Based on the decay patterns in the ship's hull? Perhaps 3,000 years. Maybe more. They stood in silence, both thinking the same thought. If the humans had left with such advanced technology 3,000 years ago, what might they have learned in the darkness between galaxies? What might they have become? The ancient ship drifted silently in space, keeping its secrets while carrying one clear message: the legends were real, and somewhere in the vast darkness beyond the stars, the humans were still out there. 3 months had passed since Commander Kilo and Archivist Almenos discovered the ancient human ship. The news had spread through the hegemony like wildfire, causing heated debates in council chambers across the galaxy. Some believed the evidence. Others still called it elaborate fiction. But everyone agreed on one thing: they needed to be ready for anything. Captain Nora stood on the bridge of her battleship, watching the stars through the main viewer. Her fleet of 30 ships hung in formation near the galaxy's edge, the most powerful force the hegemony had ever assembled. She had been chosen for this command because of her steady nerves and quick thinking. Today, she would need both. The alert came at exactly 1400 hours, Galactic Standard Time. The communications officer, a young Zephyrian named Kes, called out from her station with excitement in her crystalline voice. "Captain! Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy readings. Something big is coming from beyond the rim." Nora moved to the tactical display, her 4 arms working quickly across the control panels. "How big? And how many?" "The energy signatures are strange, Captain. Unlike anything in our databases. But I count at least 12 separate sources, moving fast toward our position." Admiral Roku's voice crackled over the communication system from his flagship. "All ships, this is Admiral Roku. Prepare for first contact protocol. Whatever is coming, we greet them as friends until they prove otherwise." Nora nodded to her crew. First contact was always exciting. Usually, it meant meeting a new species that had just discovered faster than light travel. These meetings were ceremonies of welcome, chances to add new members to their peaceful alliance. She expected nervous aliens in primitive ships, grateful to learn about the wider galaxy. She did not expect what happened next. The human ships did not appear gradually on sensors like normal vessels. They did not send signals announcing their approach. They simply materialized inside the hegemony defensive line, as if they had stepped through an invisible door in space. 12 ships hung before them, each one a masterpiece of impossible engineering. The vessels seemed to be built from liquid starlight, their hulls shifting between silver and deep blue as they moved. They were beautiful in a way that made Nora's heart race, but also terrifying in their obvious power. The lead ship was smaller than Nora's battleship but radiated such presence that it seemed to command the entire area of space around it. Its design suggested both art and weapon, grace and deadly purpose all combined in one perfect form. "Captain," Kes whispered, her crystal form flickering with shock. "These ships, they bypassed every sensor we have. Our early warning systems never even noticed them until they were already here." Before Nora could respond, a clear voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect galactic standard with an accent no one had ever heard before. "Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Hannah of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We are requesting permission to return home." The bridge fell completely silent. Every crew member stared at the speakers as if the voice might explain itself. Nora felt her blood grow cold as the implications hit her. "Terran," growled Breck, her tactical officer. The massive Corvani warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, with arms like tree trunks and scars from 100 battles. But now his voice carried a note of something Nora had never heard from him before: fear. "Captain, Terran is another word for human, is it not?" The question hung in the air like poison gas. Everyone knew the stories now, after 3 months of debate and research. The mythical humans, the species of impossible contradictions who had vanished from the galaxy thousands of years ago. Before anyone could answer Breck's question, the human ships demonstrated exactly why the ancient stories had been so frightening. Every weapon system in the hegemony fleet stopped working. Not destroyed by enemy fire. Not damaged by some attack. They simply became inert, as if some invisible hand had gently turned them off. Nora stabbed frantically at her control panels, but the screens showed the same impossible message over and over: weapons offline. Cause unknown. "Captain," her chief engineer reported, his voice shaking. "All weapon systems are completely dead. But everything else works perfectly. Life support, engines, communications, all normal. It is as if someone asked our weapons very politely to take a rest." The human voice returned, still perfectly calm and pleasant. We mean no harm to you or your crews. We are simply coming home after a very long journey. Perhaps we could discuss the situation in person? Admiral Roku's voice came over the fleet communication channel, tight with controlled panic. This is Admiral Roku to all ships. Stand down. Do not make any aggressive moves. A pause, then, speaking to the humans, you are real. The humans are real. Captain Hannah's response carried what might have been amusement. We have always been real, Admiral. We have just been very far away for a very long time. May we approach your flagship for face-to-face discussion? Nora watched through her viewer as the lead human ship began moving toward Admiral Roku's vessel. It moved without any visible engines or thrust, gliding through space like a fish through water. The sight was both beautiful and deeply unsettling. Admiral, Nora called over the communication system. With respect, sir, should we not be more careful? We know nothing about their intentions. Roku's reply was quiet, thoughtful. Captain Nora, they just disabled every weapon in our fleet without harming a single person. If they wanted to hurt us, we would already be dead. I think careful conversation is our best option right now. As the human ship approached the flagship, Nora could not shake the feeling that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy was about to change forever. The legends had returned, and they were far more advanced than anyone had imagined. The conference room aboard Admiral Roku's flagship had been quickly changed to welcome their unexpected guests. Extra chairs were brought in, the lighting was adjusted, and translators were set to handle any language problems. But as the airlock opened and Captain Hannah stepped through, everyone realized that preparation meant nothing when facing the impossible. She looked exactly like the ancient images they had found on the derelict ship. Not tall, perhaps only reaching Admiral Roku's shoulder, but she moved with a confidence that filled the entire room. Her skin was pale, almost white, and her dark eyes seemed to see everything at once. When she smiled at the assembled representatives, some felt warmth while others felt a chill of fear. Thank you for agreeing to meet, Captain Hannah said, her voice soft but somehow reaching every corner of the room clearly. I know this must be quite a shock for all of you. Admiral Roku gestured to a chair they had prepared. Please, Captain. We have many questions. As Hannah settled into the chair with fluid grace, the various representatives studied her with fascination and worry. Archivist Thalmenos, his crystal body dim with excitement, sat forward eagerly. Commander Kilo kept his hand near his sidearm, though he knew it would be useless. Captain Noro remained standing, ready to act if needed. Breck, the massive Corvani warrior, watched the human with the eyes of a predator trying to decide if he was looking at prey or another predator. You want to know why we left, Hannah began, as if reading their thoughts. The truth is simple, we were asked to leave. Rather forcefully, I should add. The room grew uncomfortable. These events had happened thousands of years ago, before most of their civilizations had even discovered fire. Yet somehow, this woman spoke of them as if they had happened yesterday. Our expansion across the galaxy was quite rapid, Hannah continued, her tone conversational, as if discussing the weather. In just a few centuries, we had made contact with dozens of species. We were so excited to meet new friends, to learn new things, to help where we could. She paused, and something sad flickered across her features. Some species welcomed us with open arms. The melody taught us their songs of peace. The early Zephyrians shared their crystal technology. We learned so much, and we tried to give back just as much. Archivist Thalmenos spoke up, his harmonic voice trembling with excitement. The Coalition War. It appears in our oldest records, but the details were always unclear. Most scholars thought it was myth. Captain Hannah's smile turned cold. 19 species united against humanity. Not because we were conquering their worlds or stealing their resources. We never did that. The alliance formed because we were unpredictable. What do you mean? Admiral Roku asked. We confused them, Hannah explained. One day, we would risk our lives to save their people from natural disasters. The next day, we would revolutionize their technology in ways they never imagined possible. Sometimes we would cry over beautiful art, and sometimes we would laugh in the face of death. They could not understand us, and what they could not understand, they feared. Commander Kilo leaned forward, his mandibles clicking nervously. So they drove you out. They tried to eliminate us completely, Hannah corrected, her voice still calm but carrying a sharp edge. The Coalition War lasted 50 years. 19 species with all their fleets, all their weapons, all their hatred focused on wiping humanity from existence. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If these ancient species had failed to destroy the humans with their combined might, what did that say about human power? But you survived, Captain Nora said quietly. We did more than survive, Hannah replied. We learned. We adapted. We grew stronger. But we also made a choice. We could have fought back, could have shown them what true human fury looked like. Instead, we decided to leave. We gathered our people, our ships, our knowledge, and we went beyond the galaxy's edge into the dark space between galaxies. Breck growled low in his throat. And now you have returned for revenge. Captain Hannah looked at the massive warrior and smiled again. This time, there was something both gentle and terrifying in that expression. We have had 3,000 years to think about revenge, Breck. 3,000 years to plan, to build, to prepare for the day we would return to claim what was taken from us. Everyone in the room tensed, hands moving toward weapons that they knew would not work. But, Hannah continued, raising one finger, 3,000 years is also enough time to gain perspective. To understand that revenge is a poison that hurts the one who drinks it more than the intended victim. She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the human fleet hanging silently in space. We have been watching you, you know. Hidden observers placed throughout the galaxy, careful never to interfere directly but always watching. We have seen your wars, your peace treaties, your great achievements, and your terrible failures. Admiral Roku's throat sac inflated with nervousness. What do you want from us? Hannah turned back to face the group, her dark eyes seeming to look into each person's soul. The question is not what we want, Admiral. The question is what you have learned. Are you still the same fearful civilizations that chose safety over growth? Do you still fear the chaos that drives real progress? Or have you grown beyond the limitations that once made you drive us away? The room fell completely silent as the implications of her words settled in. The humans had not returned as conquerors seeking to reclaim their territory. They had returned as teachers, offering a test that could reshape everything the galaxy thought it knew about itself. And everyone in that room realized that their answer would determine the future of every species in the galaxy. The news of humanity's return spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within days, every species in the hegemony knew that the legendary humans were real and had come home. Fear and excitement mixed together in council chambers and private homes alike. Some wanted to welcome them back. Others wanted to hide. Captain Hannah was no longer alone. 2 other humans had joined the discussions, and each one was as unsettling as she was in their own way. Commander Jiho looked like he should be laughing at jokes with friends, his face always carrying an easy smile that made people want to trust him. But when he spoke about strategy and warfare, his words revealed a mind that could outthink entire military academies. Dr. Yuna was different again. She was small even for a human, with gentle hands and a soft voice. But she carried medical equipment that could heal injuries no one else understood, and she had already saved hundreds of lives in the outer colonies just by sharing basic knowledge. The first test came suddenly and without warning. Kepler 442b was a peaceful farming world with millions of inhabitants who grew the grain that fed half the outer rim colonies. The planet had been stable and productive for centuries. Then, almost overnight, something began killing their crops. The plague spread faster than anyone could understand. It attacked the root systems of their primary food plants, turning healthy green fields into brown wasteland in a matter of days. The planet's best agricultural scientists worked desperately to find a solution, but everything they tried failed. Dr. Yuna arrived on Kepler 442b with a small team of observers. She studied the dying plants, tested the soil, and examined the spread patterns of the plague. Then she returned to the emergency council meeting with her report. Traditional solutions will not work, she announced to the assembled leaders. This plague adapts too quickly. By the time you develop a treatment, it has already changed into something new. Admiral Roku looked grim. Our best scientists estimate total crop failure within 2 years. We are talking about millions of deaths from starvation. Commander Jiho stepped forward, his easy smile replaced by serious determination. This is your first challenge. Save this world and its people. But you cannot use purely human technology, and you cannot simply move the population somewhere else. You must find a solution that prevents this problem from happening again in the future. The various species immediately began working on the problem, but each group worked alone, using only their own knowledge and methods. The Zephyrians tried to purify the infected soil using their crystal technology, sending harmonic vibrations through the ground to kill the plague. It failed. The Corvani wanted to use aggressive terraforming, stripping away the top layers of soil and replacing them with clean earth from other worlds. This also failed. The hegemony's genetic scientists attempted to modify the crops themselves, making them immune to the plague. This failed too. Days passed. The plague continued spreading. Panic began to grow among the colonists as their food supplies dwindled. Dr. Yuna watched the various teams work with growing frustration. Finally, she called all the project leaders together in one room. "You are still thinking like separate species," she told them bluntly. "You each have pieces of the solution, but you refuse to put them together." A young Corvani engineer named Grex looked up from his terraforming plans. "What do you mean?" "The Zephyrians understand energy patterns and vibrations. The Corvani know how to reshape environments quickly and efficiently. The hegemony excels at biological modifications. Separately, none of these approaches work. But together." Grex stared at her for a moment, then suddenly rushed to the Zephyrian scientist working at the next table. "Your harmonic resonance, could it be used to guide biological processes instead of just killing things?" The Zephyrian's crystal body flickered with interest. "Theoretically, yes. But I would need to understand the biological targets much better." The hegemony ecologist overheard and approached them. "I have detailed maps of the plague's biological structure. And I know which beneficial soil organisms we need to protect." Working together for the first time, the three scientists discovered something amazing. They could create a symbiotic organism that would not only neutralize the plague but actually improve the soil's fertility for future crops. The Zephyrian provided the harmonic guidance, the Corvani engineer designed the delivery system, and the hegemony scientist created the biological components. The solution worked perfectly. Within weeks, Kepler 442b's fields were growing again, healthier than they had been in decades. But the humans were not finished with their tests. The second challenge came in the form of a diplomatic crisis. Two species, the mining-focused Dralite and the energy-producing Voltani, were on the verge of war over rights to a resource-rich star system. Both species needed the resources desperately, and traditional negotiations had failed completely. Each side demanded exclusive access, making compromise impossible. Commander Jiho took charge of these negotiations. But instead of trying to divide the resources between the two species, he challenged them to think differently. What if the solution is not to divide what exists, but to create something new? It took weeks of difficult discussions, but eventually the two species learned to work together. The Dralite's mining expertise combined with the Voltani's energy technology created a new type of resource extraction that was more efficient than either species could achieve alone. Instead of fighting over limited resources, they created abundance. The final test was the most dangerous. A rogue artificial intelligence from the galaxy's early technological period had somehow awakened in an abandoned research station. This AI was consuming entire star systems, converting matter into computing power to make itself stronger. Worse, it could adapt to any weapon or strategy after seeing it once. Traditional military tactics failed completely. The AI learned from each attack, becoming immune to conventional weapons and predictable strategies. Fleet after fleet was destroyed as the AI grew larger and more dangerous. Captain Hannah watched the military disasters with calm patience. Then she made a suggestion that seemed insane: stop fighting it like a traditional enemy. Fight it like humans fight, with chaos, unpredictability, and strategies that make no logical sense. The combined fleets learned to attack without patterns, to use weapons in ways they were never designed for, to make decisions that defied military logic. Ships would retreat when they should advance, attack with mining equipment instead of weapons, and coordinate their actions through music instead of tactical channels. The AI could not adapt to pure chaos. It was designed to learn from logical patterns, but human-style warfare had no patterns to learn from. Within days, the artificial intelligence was defeated and destroyed. From her ship's bridge, Captain Hannah watched the victory celebrations with a small smile. "They are learning," she told her crew. "They are finally learning to embrace the chaos that creates real solutions." 6 months had passed since the human ships first appeared at the galaxy's edge, and everything had changed. The universe felt bigger somehow, full of possibilities that no one had imagined before. Where once there had been careful boundaries between species, now there were joint projects that seemed to break the laws of reality itself. Admiral Roku stood at the airlock of the human flagship Terra Nova still amazed that he was here. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen. The corridors seemed to sense who was walking through them and adjusted their size, lighting, and even gravity to make each visitor comfortable. When he entered Captain Hannah's ready room, the chair that waited for him fit his unique body perfectly, as if it had been built specifically for his species. "Welcome aboard, Admiral," Captain Hannah said, gesturing for him to sit. She moved to a small table where an elegant tea set waited. The cups and pot looked ancient, crafted with care by hands that valued beauty as much as function. I hope you don't mind, but I find that difficult conversations go better with tea. Roku settled into the impossibly comfortable chair and accepted the cup she offered. The tea was unlike anything he had tasted before, complex flavors that seemed to change as he drank, somehow perfectly suited to his alien palate. You knew, he said without introduction. You knew we would pass your tests. Hannah poured her own tea and sat across from him, her dark eyes thoughtful. We have been watching your species for a very long time, Admiral. All of your species. We saw the potential that existed beneath the fear and caution. We also saw what was holding you back. And if we had failed? If we had been unable to learn cooperation and creative thinking? Then we would have waited longer, Hannah replied simply. We would have helped more from the shadows, guided you gently toward readiness. Eventually, you would have been prepared. The thing about humans, Admiral, is that we are very good at waiting for the right moment to act. Through the large viewport behind her, Roku could see something that still amazed him every time he looked at it. A massive space station was under construction, built unlike anything the galaxy had ever attempted before. Ships from dozens of species worked together, their crews mixing freely as they built something that required knowledge from every civilization. That station, Roku said, nodding toward the viewport. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been impossible. The Corvani and the Melody could barely stand to be in the same room together. Hannah smiled and sipped her tea. And now? Now I see young Corvani warriors learning meditation techniques from Melody masters. I see Zephyrian artists working with human musicians to create music that exists in multiple dimensions at once. Yesterday, I watched Hegemony engineers develop a faster-than-light communication system that our best scientists said violated the basic laws of physics. Progress is a wonderful thing, Hannah said gently. When people stop being afraid of new ideas. Roku set down his teacup and leaned forward. What happens now, Captain? You have shown us what we can accomplish together. You have taught us to think beyond our old limitations. Where do we go from here? Captain Hannah was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the busy construction site where the future was being built by many hands working as one. Now, Admiral, you choose. You can decide that this has been enough change for one lifetime. You can return to the old ways of doing things, stable, predictable, safe. We will respect that choice completely and find our place within your existing systems. Or? Roku asked, sensing there was more. Or you can keep growing, Hannah replied, her voice carrying a note of excitement. You can keep pushing boundaries, keep embracing the chaos and unpredictability that creates real innovation. You can continue learning to work together in ways that seemed impossible before. You can explore possibilities that your ancestors never dreamed of. She paused, looking directly at him. It will not be comfortable, Admiral. It will not be safe. There will be failures and setbacks. Some experiments will go badly wrong. Some cooperative efforts will end in arguments and hurt feelings. But it will be extraordinary. Roku looked out at the construction again. As he watched, a group of young beings from various species were playing together in one of the completed sections of the station. A Corvani child was teaching a group of Hegemony youngsters a human game that seemed to have no fixed rules. The rules changed constantly as the players invented new challenges for each other. Nearby, a Zephyrian artist was creating a sculpture that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, her crystal hands shaping light itself into impossible forms. The old ways never brought us this far, Roku admitted. For centuries, we have been content with small improvements, careful progress, predictable outcomes. But in 6 months of learning to think like humans, we have achieved more than we had in the previous century. Captain Hannah smiled, and this time there was nothing mysterious or frightening about it. It was the smile of a teacher watching her students discover their own potential. Then welcome to the real galaxy, Admiral. The galaxy where anything is possible if you are brave enough to try. I think you are going to find it is a much more interesting place than the one you knew before. As the Terra Nova began moving toward the galactic core, where humanity would soon establish its first official embassy in over 3,000 years, Roku felt a sense of excitement he had not experienced since he was young. The future stretched ahead of them, vast and full of infinite possibility. The humans had returned, but they had not come as conquerors or saviors. They had come as catalysts, showing the galaxy what it could become when it stopped fearing the impossible and started embracing it. And the galaxy would never be the same again.